Hey everyone, I'm Elena. Welcome back to What Was Meant. 10 years ago today, on February 2nd, 2016, I had brain surgery. By that point, I had been sick for almost 18 years with a disease I didn't even know I had because doctors didn't listen to me. This is a story of how trauma settled into my body, how it nearly killed me, and how God carried me through what was meant to destroy me. For nearly 2 decades, from 1998 through 2015, my body was screaming for help. At the onset of the disease I didn't even know I had, I started feeling depressed in ways I couldn't explain, crying at the drop of a hat over everything and nothing at all. For my whole life up until then, I'd been someone who struggled to gain weight, and suddenly I started putting on pounds until I was classified as obese. My health unraveled piece by piece. My heart, my memory, my balance, my hormones, my sense of self. My muscles wasted away. My hands trembled uncontrollably, and my arms contorted spontaneously. When I looked in the mirror, the image looking back at me was foreign and distorted, like I was trapped in a room full of funhouse mirrors. As a trauma survivor, I worked hard to overcome my social awkwardness, and now I felt ugly, stuck in a body that I didn't recognize. I felt like my body was betraying me, and I did what we're told to do. I went to doctors, I asked for help, and time after time, I was dismissed, minimized, told to join Weight Watchers, told it was all in my mind and to see a psychiatrist. But I wasn't crazy, and it wasn't all in my mind. It was Cushing's disease, a rare, devastating endocrine disorder caused by a pituitary brain tumor that was quietly poisoning my body with huge amounts of cortisol, the fight or flight hormone. I didn't know it yet, but the delay in being diagnosed nearly cost me my life. And there's something else I understand now that I didn't then. The effects of childhood trauma don't go away just because you grow up. As the saying goes, the body keeps the score. When you're raised in an unsafe environment, your body learns to live in survival mode, on high alert, hypervigilant, and bathed in stress hormones for years. Numerous studies have shown that survivors of severe childhood trauma can experience changes in their brain's stress response system, resulting in dysregulation that leads to serious health issues later in life. In adulthood, once the danger is gone, your body at last tells the truth. Trauma during your formative years can show up later in life as things such as chronic illness, substance abuse, autoimmune diseases, anxiety, and depression, just to name a few. For me, Cushing's disease was how that truth manifested. Not because my body failed me, but because it adapted for decades to survive what it never should have had to endure. I know some of you watching this have made that same connection when you've experienced physical or mental issues after childhood trauma. You didn't imagine it, and your body didn't mean to betray you. It carried you until it couldn't anymore. In my case, everything changed after we moved away from Seattle in 2012, and I began seeing a new primary care provider. She was a physician's assistant at a family practice in our town. I saw her while my husband and 3 sons saw the doctor. During the following 3 years, she noticed what others had missed: the cognitive decline, the physical breakdown, the steady downward spiral I couldn't stop. And one day she looked at me and said, "I think you might have Cushing's disease." Like most in her profession, she'd never had a patient with it before. And unlike every doctor I'd seen before her, she didn't pretend to know everything. She listened, she researched, and she actually took the time to order the relevant tests, something I'd asked countless others for but never received. After my blood work came in showing elevated cortisol and ACTH levels, she ordered a 24-hour urine test to measure my free cortisol. When the results came back, she called me immediately. The high end of the normal range on the test was 45, and my cortisol levels were at 194.5, nearly 5 times higher than where they should have been. With those results, you'd think the truth could no longer be ignored, but the fight wasn't over. She referred me to an endocrinologist who did a quick examination, asked me a few questions, then dismissed me, saying, "You're not depressed and you don't look like a person with Cushing, so I don't think you have it." Feeling deflated, I looked at the floor and fought back tears. Thankfully, my husband Eric wasn't having it. He was pissed. He asked what else it could be with my results, and the doctor shrugged sheepishly and said, "I don't know." The next words out of my husband's mouth were music to my ears. He said, "Then we're not leaving until you agree to test her." A series of tests ensued, culminating with a brain MRI, which showed a 6 by 8 millimeter tumor clear as day on my pituitary gland. It might sound strange, but I was so happy to see that brain tumor. In an instant, everything made sense, and I finally had confirmation. Almost 18 years of suffering had a name and a cause. As a mom, my 3 sons are always my first thought, and the holidays were right around the corner, so I waited. We had a normal Christmas and a normal New Year's. I searched for the right brain surgeon, and by pure coincidence, the surgeon that I chose was at Swedish Neuroscience in Seattle. So at the end of January, and after several more rounds of rigorous testing, Eric and I flew back to Seattle, and on February 2nd, 2016, I chose surgery. Transsphenoidal brain surgery. High risk, no guarantees. When Eric and I met with my neurosurgeon, a brilliant doctor by the name of Mark Mayberg, the day before the procedure, he told us that my tumor was right up against my carotid artery. This made the surgery even more risky, and Dr. Mayberg asked if I still wanted to proceed. I didn't hesitate. I hadn't had a real quality of life in almost 2 decades. I was ready. When I woke up after surgery, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, but I was alive. And suddenly the things I used to worry about, money, schedules, the noise of everyday life, felt incredibly insignificant. The waiting afterward was agonizing, watching my cortisol levels, hoping they would fall low enough to mean the surgery worked. The magic number was 2 micrograms per deciliter, and when my level dropped below that 2 consecutive times on February 4th, it was official. The tumor that had made my life hell for so many years was gone. Recovery wasn't quick or easy. Withdrawal after so many years of cortisol overload was excruciating. I've been told it's a lot like heroin withdrawal, but much longer. My body had to relearn how to live. In the beginning, my body no longer knew how to produce cortisol. I had adrenal failure similar to Addison's disease, and I had to take replacement steroids to manage it. I had endless blood tests, a couple of follow-up MRIs, and it took 2.5 years before I officially reached remission in August of 2018. Cushing's changes you. It changes your body, your face, your mind. It made me unrecognizable to the point that at my paternal grandmother's funeral in 2003, my grandfather, who wasn't related by blood but was the only person who was consistently kind to me growing up, recoiled when I tried to hug him because I looked like a different person. And as remission neared, the changes reversed. I lost the weight. I started looking like myself again. When I passed by a mirror, I'd do a double take. I finally recognized myself in my reflection. People joked that I was aging backward like Benjamin Button, but what they didn't see was the strength it took to keep showing up, to motherhood, to work, to volunteering, to life, while my body was under siege. There's something else I need to say because it's important. Through all of this, God never let go of me, even when I didn't understand what was happening. Years earlier, just after our move from Seattle, I had bought a wooden zebra from Pier 1 Imports. My husband and children hated that zebra and told me it was creepy, but I felt an inexplicable need to have it, and I placed it in the niche outside my bedroom next to a small angel. A few weeks after surgery, when I read the post-op report, I learned that my tumor had changes that would have killed me if I hadn't been diagnosed when I had. As the realization of how close I'd come to dying hit me, I walked down the hall to my bedroom and stopped in front of that wooden zebra. And I felt God say, "See, I've had you this whole time." Only then did I understand. In all of my research since my diagnosis, I hadn't made the connection. The zebra. Cushing's disease is symbolized by a zebra because it's rare, and I'd bought that zebra 3 years before my diagnosis. Doctors are taught that in diagnosing patients, they should think of it like horses versus zebras. When they hear hoofbeats, they should look for a horse as the most likely cause, since they are more common than zebras, which symbolize the rare, more uncommon diseases.
Do you happen to know what a zebra is?
That patient just mocked me.
It's a diagnosis of a ridiculously obscure disease when it's much more likely that the patient has a common illness presenting with uncommon symptoms. In other words, if you hear hoofbeats, you just go ahead and think horsies, not zebras.
But sometimes it is a zebra. And sometimes God leaves quiet reminders along the way that He sees what others miss. Just like God gave Noah the symbol of the rainbow in the biblical story of Noah's Ark, my zebra serves as a reminder to me of God's love and protection. And on my next birthday, after I had brain surgery to save my life, I got a tattoo as a reminder that I carry with me every day. I am not a victim. I am a survivor, a fighter, a woman who learned to advocate for herself, a mother who chose life, a believer who knows she was carried. 10 years ago today, brain surgery saved my life. Today, I honor the journey. I honor the fight, and I honor the God who never stopped holding me. If my story helps even one person push for answers, trust their body, or refuse to be dismissed, then every single step was worth it. I'm still here, and I am not done yet.